Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We have quite a few that have joined. We have about 30 some that have already joined us, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Kathy Henrich. I'm the CEO of the MKE Tech Hub Coalition. Very nice to have all of our guests here today. When we talked originally over to Summerfest Tech, we thought it was really important for us to do this panel on how do you leverage non-traditional talent sources in our organization. And the reason is the MKE Tech Hub Coalition is really a group of now 35 organizations that have come together around the mission of doubling the tech talent here in the Milwaukee region. To do that, to move on scale like that, it's not going to come only from college degrees. Obviously, that's still an important route, but we're also going to have to utilize some non-traditional routes into the tech talent field as well. So I'm really excited to have 4 organizations here who have all been leaders in this and really have stories to tell of how they're utilizing non-traditional talent routes to source exceptional talents, kind of what they've learned through that, and maybe some unexpected benefits that they hadn't anticipated. So I'm going to go round robin, and hopefully this will be helpful to have everybody's insights. So Neil, I'll go with you first.
Thanks, Kathy. For Northwestern Mutual, where I'm at is I operate as CIO there. I think a lot about tech talent every day. We are a fairly large organization and certainly large for Milwaukee. And so for us, the technology talent really powers our business, whether it's on the insurance side or the investment side, our employee experience, our client experience, our field experience. And what became clear to us early on was that we could consume all of the traditional talent that was available in the marketplace and still not have enough. And so, we've done a lot of what folks typically do. We've worked with outsourced providers. We work with staffing partners. We've done acquisitions, acqui-hires. We've got a campus in New York. And yet, in aggregate, that's still not enough, that we still have literally thousands of folks who work in our technology organization, and we'd love to have thousands more. And so for us, the traditional sources, while they're fantastic, and we have partnerships actually with a couple of the other panelists here, and I'm sure you'll hear from them, just weren't quite enough. And so we had to be a little more creative. We had to go a little bit farther, if you will, to really satisfy the need. The thing that we realized, though, early on was that we had an opportunity to do good while we were doing well, while we were satisfying our needs. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well on our journey. But instead of focusing on those traditional tools that most folks know, we'll talk a little bit about the non-traditional. So the first thing we realized is that we would have to make significant investments in the community to attract and retain talent. And as you know, I'm sure is near and dear to you, Milwaukee, the Tech Coalition, Tech Hub, this is part of that strategy. And we believe that the rising tide floats all boats, and that what's good for Milwaukee is good for Northwestern Mutual. Again, as one of the largest employers, if we're growing the talent pool, we'll take advantage of that. So I like to think we do have a tremendous amount of energy devoted to sort of broad-based efforts, but we also do quite a few things on our own that are sort of distinctly Northwestern Mutual. So in terms of growing and attracting the talent, you mentioned college graduates. We believe that that's important, but we also believe that college graduates are started early, that folks that are going to have technical careers, we should be starting STEM education early. We have a program, for example, called High Tech, that's high, tech, that works with younger students, that works with students in high school, and we do internships there. That's the kind of thing where you start them early. If you look all in, we do programming classes, we do tech hours, we do volunteer programs with our employees. We actually reach about 9,000 students annually in the Milwaukee area, primarily from underserved communities, from sources that are definitely non-traditional in terms of the technology story. Earlier this year, we also launched a program that we're calling Outsource to Milwaukee, along with Galaxy Solutions, that will focus on bringing tech jobs to Milwaukee, and again, with an emphasis on second career technologists and retraining of technologists and folks new to the function that might not have had an opportunity to be based here in Milwaukee. And certainly our emphasis is again on underserved communities. And finally, we're participants in larger programs, national programs that have presence here in Milwaukee, like IC Stars, for example. We started with their coalition in March of 2018, and we've continued to sponsor all 6 Milwaukee cohorts. We have 11 IC Star graduates that are in full-time positions now. And the great thing about it is they've also been diverse hires. And so we've managed to, I think, make a positive impact on the community while we are satisfying a business need. And it's by marrying those two things together that you get sustainable outcomes. Maybe the last thing I would mention is there's the Northwestern Mutual Data Science Institute in collaboration with UW-M and with Marquette. And we have not only a program that focuses on the university students, the college graduates, but they also have STEM and outreach programs that in that specific area. And thinking about data scientists and that type of technologist, we've done quite a bit there. So, one of the things that's interesting is that starting a new program with non-traditional sources can often be challenging inside a company, that you have the normal ways of working. You have global delivery partners and outsource partners, and you have the traditional programs. But you've got to, when doing this, outline the benefits, talk about the metrics, talk about what good looks like, sell the business case, and then the community benefit comes along, and it's just a really great sort of peanut butter and chocolate, right? They're two great tastes that taste great together. So for us, we outlined what our business case was, the good that we were going to do from a financial perspective, from a delivery perspective, from a quality perspective. And then it turns out layering on the good for the community just came along with it. So, in summary, we kind of went to non-traditional sources out of necessity because the traditional sources just didn't fill the pipeline. There wasn't enough. And we found that by using our cloud, by using our buying power, if you will, in the market to bring resources, we were able to do so in a way that satisfied our business need and created some community good as well.
I love those comments because, you've been an exemplary leader here in the region in being able to do that. And I'm thankful to all of our members who have invested in the coalition to help us accelerate that growth here in the region of tech talent. So thank you all very much. And I think your comment is so right? It's like we have to meet our business needs, but in doing so, we can also do, good in the community as well. And I know, Tim, you've seen some examples within West Bend Mutual as well of how you've been able to give new opportunities to individuals, but maybe some unexpected benefits as well. So, Tim, you want to introduce yourself and tell us your story about using non-traditional talent?
Yeah, hi, I'm Tim Schilke, Delivery Manager of Corporate Solutions at West Bend Mutual. Now, similar to Neil's story, traditional talent, well, that's our preferred path. It's not anywhere near enough, especially being located in West Bend. It's sometimes a challenge to convince people to make the drive, and there's just not enough people located within that area. So I have two stories that I'd like to share with you, individuals on my team. One of them was actually working as a chocolatier, which sounds amazing to me. But he did enjoy the job, but he was looking for something more challenging. So he took 6 years in the evenings and completed an MATC associate's degree and then a Bachelor of Science from Lakeland. And it's very interesting to talk to him because he says, find a job that you love and you'll never work again. So he really appreciates the respect that he feels he gets in the office and really enjoys his new career. The second example I have was an individual who was a construction foreman with his dad's business. And he says he never really liked it. He ran his own crew. He said he didn't feel like he was always treated with that respect and treated as an adult. So he went to a two-year degree at Waukesha County Technical College. He did 20 plus credits a semester and finished in 18 months. And his quote about working in an office environment now is building things is building things. So to him, he feels an equivalency between what he was doing before and what he's doing now. And he also appreciates that professional respect that he feels he gets in this environment.
That's amazing. I think, you know, and I think, Tim, when we originally were talking about this, you talked about some of the maybe unexpected impact on some of your other employees.
Yeah, I think these two individuals in particular are very hard workers. They're critical thinkers, they're intuitive, they're very motivated, they appreciate what they have. And that has a positive effect on the rest of the team for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Rashi, I know that you've done have a fabulous program running around returning women to the technical workforce. And sometimes, you know, we raise children, we take a break, etc., which is a critical role. But Rashi, you want to share your story of what you're doing with Mars Solutions Group?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kathy, for having me in the panel this afternoon. I'm really enjoyed Neil's perspective, Tim, your stories. Loved hearing about construction, right? So I'm Rashi Khosla. I'm owner and president of Mars Solutions Group. What Mars is doing is we've launched an initiative called Mars Returnship. And that's focusing on a very non-traditional source of talent that is in women, as to Kathy's earlier point, that are looking to come back to technology workforce. And just in US alone, there's over 2.6 million women that hold either a PhD or a master's degree, and they don't work outside the house. And the one next to this data point that actually really prompted me to do something about it or drove my passion is there's 40% of US mothers that actually take time away from work to care for their families, and whether that's a short break or extended break. What ends up happening is when this pool of talent or these women that are ready to come back and get into workforce, the employers really oftentimes they just lack that pathway to re-engage with this talent pool. And what that does to these women is they get thrown into that same large pool of talent that you have for your traditional sources. And guess what? This traditional source of talent or the pool of candidates or our recruitment process is biased against any gap in employment. So they're subjected to this explicit bias and really, really struggle getting back into that workforce. So I've over the years just had this as a personal passion. I've coached, mentored a dozen of women and pretty much owned their returnship, so to speak, and was so excited and happy with those efforts that we've formalized it. We've tried to really scale it, and I'm happy to announce that we've launched our first formal cohort in Milwaukee this week, and really, really happy with the women that we're seeing. So what our goal here is to do two things. On one hand, we have 3 million women that are ready to come back to workforce, and on the other hand, we have our corporate partners that are really, really dealing with that gender diversity issue. Women only represent 25% of your tech workforce. So there is obviously an ample of opportunity if we can create the bridge between these two parties and provide them with those resources. So in terms of challenge though, let's see when we start to do something like this, the problem occurs because the employers do not have that muscle memory, so to speak, right? They haven't done this long enough that they're good at it yet, at least not yet. So what they need to do is realize, the employers need to realize that engaging with any non-traditional source of talent, it's just different. It's not difficult. And it's something that they can build that muscle memory for if they did it. And they created a separate pathway because there's certainly some uniqueness to how you engage with them. So I think what employers need to do is really start to think about how you position this talent. And you start with your broader talent strategy and make sure there's a place for non-traditional sources of talent in that. And then position specifically these women returners for what they truly are. What ends up happening is we put it under the bucket of corporate social responsibility plan. And don't get me wrong, fundamentally, I think that's a great thing to do for society. But what these women returners really mean to your strategy is that they are a competitive advantage for you. And that's how you need to place that. That it's not only a source of strong and diverse talent, they bring in a business competitive advantage to you. So I think that positioning is extremely important. And work on removing those explicit, implicit biases that you might have for this source of talent. And this next point that I want to make about just how do you make this real? Do you have an action plan? And to me, this is so critical. So if you get your strategy right, you need to make sure that the level that you do most of your hiring at, most of the hiring managers, do they have the resources, the time, the buy-in? Because that's where the rubber hits the road, right? Because they need to also understand on-ramping these resources is a little different. And then make sure that you have ample support in your environment. Do you have internal ambassadors in IT? Do you have them on the business side? Can you provide training, coaching? Can you provide flexible work schedule for these women returners? And then really, it's just an amazing source of talent that remains untapped for most part. Most of my cohort,
Uh-oh, we lost Rashi. While we get her
really
back.
surprised with all of the background they've brought to the table because, oh, I'm back? Okay, I don't know what happened there. I was gonna share that with just this first cohort, Kathy, that we're running, most women that took break from their career weren't just at home. We have women that actually did part-time flight attending, event marketing, they've been PTA leaders, volunteering. So I believe all those broader skills that they have gained and the experience they've gained actually translates really well into technology workforce. And most women returners, I'm sure everybody would agree, bring in exceptional time management, communication skill, planning skills. So I'm really excited to be bringing that initiative to Milwaukee.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because, you know, the value of diversity. I'm glad you brought that up. In fact, I wrote an article this weekend which talks to this. And I think McKinsey did a study last year that looks at the overperformance of those that have diverse tech talent versus those that do not. And it's like a 36% greater ability to, or a chance of being successful. It's huge. So I think that's such an important element of it. So thank you for bringing that into it. Brian, I think I'd love to hear now your story. You're a newcomer here to the Milwaukee region. And we're so thankful to have you investing here in the region. And I think it's really important for people to hear how you're bringing different sources of talent to bear to the Milwaukee market. You're on mute. That's all right.
I thought I hit that. So thank you and greetings from Michigan, where I call home. The panel here is really alluded to the fact that what we're doing, non-traditional talent sources, recruiting, hiring, training strategies, it's great for everyone, but it's critical to our businesses. It makes good business sense. Quick Google this morning just to see what the latest stats are, prove it out, where you're looking at 700,000 unfilled tech jobs. And then you're looking at the other challenge of over 30 million of unemployed and underemployed Americans, forcing us. And then we don't have 700,000 computer science four-year degree students graduating every year to compete for. So non-traditional hiring is something, it's not new, and it's something that's only becoming more and more critical. In a little over 20 years at Galaxy, I've had an opportunity to wear multiple hats. But I've spent the bulk of my time leading international recruiting organizations and working on the front line with business. So I've had a great viewpoint on just how important talent is when you think of that stool of people, processes, and tools. Without the people, nothing else is going to work. And so in 2009, I had the blessing of being tasked with taking 22 high school graduates with no professional experience or advanced education and turning them into QA analysts and making this program work. And that program led to, in 2010, something we coined Outsource to Detroit, where we decided to blend corporate social responsibility, diversity, and inclusion, and create a program that was geared towards job creation and collaboration with the community, businesses, academic institutions, and government, and create a new pathway for underrepresented communities that would fill our open cubicles as employers with productive individuals. Fast forward a few more years, that program is now outsourced to America, and we've expanded from Detroit to Milwaukee to Hartford to Nashville. We are currently opening in St. Louis and Baltimore, and all because communities are recognizing the need for this. So we have established playbooks rooted in collaboration, again, that says when we identify a city, before we know what people need to do, we're a services firm. We support Neil and organizations like Northwestern Mutual. Before we even know exactly what individuals are going to do, we know skills like aptitude and drive, a desire to learn, and a need for opportunity really create a unique talent pool that, given the right mentorship and pathway development, we can do some amazing things. And so that playbook, not only does it include the recruiting team I no longer lead because I'm now dedicated to this program, but it includes playbooks and partners that we touch base with, whether it is city workforce agencies, whether it's the MKE Tech Hub Coalition, whether it is every nonprofit that shares our vision for taking people who have been disadvantaged or underrepresented, and we leverage the investments already being made in a community, and we provide that wrapper. The investment in talent that needs a start, we sell that investment in our belief to people like Neil, and it's not a difficult sell. You see what they're already doing. And we put together, again, a community-wide framework and playbook that is going to give people opportunities to get in the door and then go from job creation to career pathway development, where we are going to grow those individuals. And the things that we learned there as well is healthy things grow. And if you look at the social determinants of health, obviously employment and access to income is important. But if you don't have healthy communities in which you're trying to do this, nothing is going to grow. So then it becomes looking at what are the organizations, community partners that are providing the wraparound services and supports. Is it transportation? Is it food security? Is it educational opportunities for our new hires, children and their family members? So people, when they come into these opportunities, we're able to train them and they can give us their best, and we can benefit from that investment. And so really, if you put together all the talk tracks that we've given, it's necessary that we do this. It can't fall under philanthropy. It can't fall under corporate social responsibility. In the world of technology, it falls under delivery. And how do you make that work? It's creating, we rely on our HR departments and other teams and our leadership to create a culture of inclusion, to create a culture of trust, where the team members we're hiring trust that you may not quite get it day one, but there is a benefit, a career for you. And I'll end my remarks by saying a 17-year-old young woman that we hired in that WASP program is now vice president of quality assurance for a major bank in New York and joining the Outsource to America program as a mentor to make sure that, and this is a feather in the cap for Galaxy, the 40 QA trainees that have started with us in Milwaukee and getting their first start in QA have a role model and a mentor, a success story they can look at and say, this is real, it's tangible, it can happen for me.
Yeah, Ryan, you said so many important things in that comment. I want to pick a couple of them out, and maybe others want to comment on this. The mentorship, right? This is about creating on-ramps to tech, and then from there, allowing them to grow. I love your story. But anything you've learned or unexpected benefits on the mentorship side of that you would want, anybody else would want to comment on, we'll open it up a little bit, that you'd like to add on to that.
Yeah, Kathy, I might add one thing. One of the things that we found, so we, as I mentioned, reach about 9,000 students a year through our programs, and a lot of that is direct engagement, whether it's through mentoring or Hour of Code, another program. The thing that was unexpected, though, the thing that we found, and that one of the reasons we make a ton of room for, is the reverse mentoring aspect as well. That getting our folks out there, getting them engaged in the community, building our brand, showing dedication to the places that we work and live, but also at the same time, taking in new ideas, taking in new perspectives, getting sort of back in touch with what it's like to be a new careerist or somebody who's just starting out. The thing that I think is there that was unexpected was there was a tremendous uplift for the folks that were the mentors. They weren't just giving, but they were receiving as well. And that's the part that I think was unexpected, but fantastic at the same time.
Yeah, Neil, it's so good that you mentioned that, because it seems, you know, you want to say, boy, you lost time and your mentor's time, right, by them giving. But on the flip side, they actually gain in creativity and those kinds of things by hearing different perspectives. So there's so much there. And I think the other thing, Ryan, that you said that I thought was so important is it's a really a test for aptitude and not a test for what they have accomplished, right, or what they can prove at this point in time. And anybody else want to comment on that as far as how that's manifesting itself on, you know, being able to, how do you know that they're going to be okay, right, as they come in with maybe not, you know, a huge portfolio in front of them? Any comments there?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So interviewing and hiring non-traditional candidates, like somebody coming from manufacturing or construction, it is a very different ballgame, because you're not looking at the typical things on the resume, like where you have worked and what your role was and what you were doing. Instead, you're looking for those soft skills, like the critical thinking. How motivated are they? I personally like to look for someone who has a lot of hobbies, because that shows that they're inquisitive and creative. So it is very different.
That's interesting. The hobbies one I hadn't really thought of. That's a very interesting angle. Rashi, I know you just went through it for your cohort. Any other comments you'd add?
Yeah, no, I think just focusing on potential versus the past, right? That's critical in case of returners, and then just giving the value to all of the different experience and how that can be transferred. And I think it's just the matter of sort of fixing the recruitment process around it. I know the programs can only go so far. IC Stars us and Galaxy. I feel like employers also need to open that pathway while there's programs that are assisting with that. But if you think about it, most of us have hired for potential, and we will all agree that's sort of what we want to do, and experience does help, which is why these programs are very beneficial, because we try to fast track our candidates with that program. So.
And I'll jump in just to say this, with all these conversations, when we talk about non-traditional talent, aptitude becomes a bit of a buzzword, and it is very difficult to describe it. But the good part is, you know it when you see it. It's unmistakable. So when we talked as a panel just about what are some of the things organizations have to be prepared for, well, you got to be prepared for a different way of recruiting and sourcing talent and engaging with them, because you're not looking at a resume for keywords and years of experience or how many endorsements on LinkedIn. Until you speak to somebody, you don't know when you have a unpolished gem. And so it really comes down to getting in the community, getting to know individuals. So to adapt, we quickly realized as our program is growing, I'm not scalable. So we had to start bringing on a new role of relationship manager, very similar to a recruiter, but very different in execution of get out and get in the community and meet people, and also help our community become proactive. All those talent partners we talked about, I don't want to know what kind of talent they're engaged with after that talent is done. I want to know as they're going into it. I want to partner with the community and let them know, if you follow this path, Galaxy has a job waiting for you. Northwestern Mutual has an opportunity waiting for you, so on and so forth. So it becomes, what does that landscape look like? And we have to put in the time early so that they know what they're working towards. And again, we get their best effort.
That's awesome. Well, this half hour went very quickly. I think all of you brought a fabulous perspective to this. I want to thank you all, because this is such a critical component as we build and grow a tech workforce to be reflective of our community, that we do that through multiple routes to talent as opposed to only one traditional path. So thank you all for joining us here today, and we hope you all have a great day. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.